The question of whether to maintain, modify or repeal the protectionist Corn Laws was a major political concern in the 1830s and 1840s. The laws, which banned the import of cereal grains until the price of that grown domestically reached 80 shillings a quarter, were good for landowners but could be disastrous for the poor at times of scarcity. The Anti-Corn Law League, founded by John Bright and Richard Cobden, led the campaign for their repeal. The League raised thousands of pounds, published and distributed newspapers and pamphlets, held mass meetings and, like the Chartists, presented petitions to Parliament. In 1832, a select committee on public petitions was established to categorise petitions presented to the Commons and keep track of the number of signatures and their place of origin. According to the reports of 1846, in the period from the 27th of January to the 28th of August, 1,953 petitions were presented in favour of the Corn Laws, containing nearly 150,000 signatures. On the other side, there were 467 petitions for repeal. At first, this sounds like the defenders of the Corn Laws had more support, but the repeal petitions contained collectively 10 times as many signatures, over 1.4 million. Here we have a petition from the fishermen and others of the Shetland Islands, with 7,064 signatures. This was presented to the Commons on the 8th of March 1846. The petitioners point out that in consequence of inferiority of soil and climate, the islands do not produce corn sufficient for the adequate subsistence of more than half of their population. Whilst it would be economically sensible for them to exchange their fish for cheap Spanish and German grain, the Corn Laws prevented this. Instead, they were forced to buy the more expensive British corn, depriving the islanders of nearly one half of the chief article required to support existence in order to benefit the landowners of other parts of the kingdom, who buy very little of your petitioners' fish. On the protectionist side, we can see this petition from the North Devon Agricultural Protection Society. This was presented to the Commons on the 23rd of January 1846. The petitioners begged the House not to give in to the Anti-Corn Law League, which they described as self-elected and unconstitutional. They warned that the repeal of the law would bring immediate distress and eventual ruin upon all classes of the community, and rob the British corn grower of the small amount of protection now enjoyed by him. In the short term, the economic result of the repeal of the Corn Laws in 1846 was something of an anticlimax. There was no vast inflow of European or American wheat, and so prices remained static, most likely disappointing the Shetland petitioners, and, of course, having far more serious consequences in famine-stricken Ireland. As for the North Devon petitioners, their warning of immediate ruin proved to be vastly exaggerated. British agriculture adapted, and thanks to increased demand from the growing industrial cities, even prospered. Far more dramatic was the political fallout, with the Tory party splits and the resignation of Sir Robert Peel's government.